Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and it is Sunday, so we are doing breaches of the week, and this week in breaches is going to be a little different. If you've sent me any of the breaches that I normally talk about throughout the week, thank you very much. I will give you a shout out in next week's video and obviously cover what you sent me, but I want to talk about the most problematic type of breach that I've been seeing for literally years. And I'm not talking about a business email compromise scam or a ransomware or any type of particular breach. I'm talking about the vertical with which they're being attacked absolutely constantly, and they consume so much of my week, especially in my breaches of the week video when we are talking about these things, and that would be healthcare. And everybody needs healthcare. I don't care if you're an infant or you're near death. You have basically seen a healthcare provider or multiple healthcare providers for years or decades, depending on how old you are. And it doesn't even matter where you live. You know, if you're listening to this or watching this from outside the United States where I am, you get healthcare too. So no matter who your insurance provider is or how your insurance is even covered based on your country, obviously here in the United States, we have private insurance. This is one of the biggest issues that we've got. And what really prompted me to do it this week, as opposed to anything else, was this news story that I was reading as I was sitting here compiling breaches of the week that made me want to just focus on this. And this would be essentially basically a therapy place getting breached. Now, here's what's happening, because in just this past week, thousands of people's highly sensitive health details, including audio and video of therapy sessions, were openly accessible on the internet. Now, this basically cache of information associated with a U.S. healthcare firm included more than 120,000 files and more than 1.7 million activity logs. Now, here's what happened. At the end of August, security researcher Jeremiah Fowler, and if you're a longtime listener, follower, etc., you've heard that name before on Breaches of the Week because he finds a good chunk of these. He discovered, the exposed trove of information in an unsecured database linked to virtual medical provider known as Confidant Health. Now, this company, which operates across 5 states, including Connecticut, Florida, and Texas, helps provide alcohol and drug addiction recovery alongside mental health treatments and other services as well. And within the 5.3 terabytes, that's how big this is, of exposed data were extremely personal details about patients that go beyond personal therapy sessions. Files seen by Fowler include multiple page reports of people's psychiatry intake notes and details of the medical histories. Quote, at the bottom of some of the documents, it said confidential health data, end quote, according to Fowler. For instance, one 7-page psychiatry intake file, which appeared to be based on a 1-hour session with a patient and had details that basically included issues with alcohol and other substances, including how the patient claimed to have taken small amounts of narcotics from their grandparents' hospice supply before that family member passed away. In another document, a mother describes a contentious relationship between her husband and son, including that while her son was using stimulants, he accused her partner of sexual abuse, and on and on. The exposed health documents include medical notes on people's appearance, mood, memory, medications, mental status, basically all the intimate things that you would be telling your therapist. One spreadsheet seen by Fowler appears to list Confidant Health members, the number of appointments they've had, the types of appointments, and more. Quote, there's some heartbreaking, really painful family trauma, personal trauma, according to Fowler. And he also added that some of the files were audio and video of patient sessions. I quote again, it's almost like having your deepest, darkest secrets that you've told your diary revealed, and it's things that you never want to get out. And that's the crux of the situation. And alongside of these medical files were obviously the normal things that you would find as you sign up for healthcare. Driver's license, ID cards, insurance cards, all this kind of stuff. Not to mention indications that some of this data is collected by chatbots or artificial intelligence, making references and prompts to AI responses and questions. In other words, you may have been talking to an artificial intelligence that was intaking you, and so maybe that platform has something as well. And this, I think, is the big issue. And the reason why this is we tell our doctors, whether they're therapists, medical doctors, whatever they are, our most intimate details. Stuff that you don't want to get out, stuff that could potentially harm reputations, especially if you're talking to a therapist, not to mention anybody else or anything else. You know, smaller communities that tend to gossip, this is the kind of thing that they want. Not to mention anybody could potentially hold this against you. If I've got this information Maybe somebody out there could blackmail you with this. And so the problem that we have here is multifold in society. And while I think healthcare is the biggest issue, one of the big problems with healthcare, and this is the first step, is that oftentimes, especially when we've done assessments in my company of medical facilities that hire us to do this, is that they are vastly behind on their security controls. Whether it's older products that no longer really detect threat compared to more modern products that detect threat better, whether it's old practices, for God's sakes, we still see faxes going back and forth through health facilities. So that is the first step of this. The second step of it is there are going to be people that see these kinds of things that really do need help. They really do need therapy. They really have a desire to actually do it themselves as opposed to be dragged to it. And they're going to read these kinds of things and say, well, I don't want to give out all of my deepest, darkest secrets to a therapist that could actually help me, because what if that person gets breached? What if that can be used against me, and not just in a court of law, but some jerk gets it and now starts blackmailing me for this? These are things that I think we have to understand. And we have become numb to a lot of the data breaches that we see in the world, because I literally do it every week. I mean, how many people pay attention to the amount of data breaches at this point anymore? It's a real unfortunate, feature of being hit constantly, and people have just thrown up their hands. Well, my data's already out there, so why should I care? Well, when it comes to medical, it's not just your social security number. It is an ever-evolving thing. As we get older, we have more health problems. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're an Olympic athlete. You have health problems. And as you get older, you're going to have more. It's just who we are as human beings. We grow old and fade away. And by virtue of that, we are going to be constantly adding new and fresh and potentially damning information to our health records. And if they're not protected in the most heavy way, the most concerted and defensive way that we possibly can, we're ending up in situations like this. And if you go back and you watch my breaches of the week, at some point I should probably just publish the literal thousands of pages of notes I have on this going back. It's got to be 5 to 7 years now that I've been doing this. You can see it's healthcare that is at least half or more every single week that's getting hit. The rest of it's spread between government, education, other things, whatever. But healthcare is the big one. And so I'll leave you with that. This was a quicker breaches of the week, but I think it needs to be addressed. And I think it's beyond important that we start focusing on essentially what we need to focus on, especially when we are defending that which is most important. We can't change our social security numbers here in the United States. You might not be able to change your national identity number if you're listening to me outside of the United States, but our healthcare is always changing. It's always updating. It's always showing how much better or worse we're getting. And so by virtue of that, it needs to be protected above all else. So there you go. There's no easy answers to this, but quite frankly, these are the things that we should be asking our healthcare providers. Don't just blindly sign the HIPAA consent forms. Ask them about their security. If we can do supply chain due diligence, from company to company as we are buying things, or using services from another company for payroll or whatever, we should be able to ask our healthcare providers what their security standards are. And if we get into that kind of practice, they're going to take notice. It's not just getting sued or fined or potentially even put out of business or losing licenses due to negligence of HIPAA. If the people start saying it, people start taking notice. And I think that's an important one. So spread the word, spread it around, share this video, share this podcast. I'm never saying no to that either. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at Nick AESP. Oh, and for the record, this was your breaches of the week. And now, please feel free to like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at Nick AESP. And also feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private. Thanks, everybody.